Asher and Penland on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipe Band here on the Adventures Pipe Band W4CY Radio, and I'm very excited. Why? Because Greystone Canyon, they're back. They're back, and I really dig what we're going to talk about. There's a couple new songs I really dig, but let's bring on Darren onto the show. How are you?
Thanks very much for having me. I'm very well. As we discussed before we just started, it's my birthday today, but honored to be here on the show and talking about something that I'm very passionate about, which is music.
I think I have something here in my toolbox that is so, you just made me think that's so appropriate for a situation if I still have it. And I'm going to find it at some point. I may play it if I find it. But I'm going to say happy birthday. And I have to say, okay, the newest single I know about is the Thin Lizzy one, but I also went and listened to another one that wasn't in what was sent to me, and I thought that was badass too, because I absolutely love UFO.
Oh,
and,
fantastic.
Oh my God, that was so killer, the UFO song. Okay, so everybody knows they have a new album coming out, but there are some covers on there that are really cool. There's original music too, but you know, there's some cool covers. I can't wait I didn't get to hear it yet. I can't wait to hear the Immigrant song.
Oh yeah, okay, great.
That's one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. But I do have to say, the minute I turned on Suicide, I was like, how the hell does he sound so much like Phil?
Oh, well, that's a huge compliment. That if I give you a little backstory to this album, like this is our third album, and as you pointed out, there are cover tunes and new original songs. Each of the band members chose a cover song that we thought kind of fitted the DNA of Greystone Canyon and that we could do a reasonable job on. The other reason that we did covers and originals is we wanted to try recording this album live. So all in the one room, no click tracks, no studio trickery, just looking at one another, amps cranked up, real drums. And we weren't sure sonically how the album would turn out. So rather than risk all of our new original songs on something that could have gone the other way, we decided to mix some covers up, and it would be maybe a low stakes affair, something like Metallica's Garage Days or Van Halen's Dive It Down.
It's so funny you said that, because the minute you started talking about it, I'm like thinking, listen, Metallica still does covers.
Yeah, and those cover albums that they do, you know, I really enjoy those. It's kind of, you can hear that the band's having fun, and that's really what we wanted. Like the previous two albums for us, they've done well. They sound great, but the last one, it was such a laborious task to bring it together. And it wasn't, you know, like the end result was great, we're happy with, but it wasn't exactly a walk in the park to do it. So we thought we'd try and change it up. And that's what we've done here. And really, I know your listeners are the ones that'll be the judge, but for us, it was a blast. And we think you can feel that when you hear it, that we're having fun.
See, that's so important in my opinion, because first of all, if you're not having fun, how am I having fun? Okay. Second of all, like, I'm just going to be blunt. This industry sucks. So, like, the most fun part is the making and playing music. If that's not fun, it's the wrong industry to be in.
Yeah, and you know, music and business have always been at odds with one another. They're strange bedfellows. So just take the business right out of it, make it about music, have fun, and hopefully that comes across. You know, hopefully, You know, like it's like when you're at a party, if you're the guy that's smiling and laughing, like people want to gravitate towards that. They're like, you know, I want to be a part of that. If you're moping in the corner and, you know, people are like, oh, I'm not going near that dude, he's a Debbie Downer.
No doubt.
That's you know, that's how we approach this. And you know, I think even sonically, it's turned out great. What we may not have in perfection and precision, we've made up within passion and attitude. So, like, you know, like
that's so important.
Yeah, like the 70s records, the 70s and 80s records that we really love. That's how most of those records were made. You know, just all the guys in the one room playing off the floor, not using tons of overdubs. Just keep it natural and like, you know, a band having fun.
Well, that's funny because one of the things I thought of in my mind before doing the interview of why I wanted to bring up was, you mean some humans are in a room playing music together? What a concept. Oh my God.
Crazy, right?
Who thought of that?
And it's so strange to me, even when I'm saying these things out aloud, is it's kind of everything that we grew up on. That's how it was done. But along the way, everything changed, you know, and I don't know, things definitely became more sterile. And also with no budgets to make music anymore, like you said, you know, the industry, it sucks. Well, you may as well not chase that carrot because there is no budget to make Welcome to My Nightmare or a Pink Floyd The Wall. There's no budget to do that anymore. So you might as well go the other route and kind of strip it down and just make a really good organic record.
And I think when you're all in a room, the music sounds different because when you're doing it in different places, you're not connected to have that cohesive sound, you know, and you're not feeding off of each other. And there's something to be said about real, like talk about Zeppelin, like Achilles' Last Stand. Everybody thinks that was just a great Robert Plant screaming voice when really he was screaming agony and pain from the car accident, you know? But it turns out to be like one of the best screams ever.
Yeah, what a fantastic song. And I mean,
right?
I don't know if you or your listeners are, you know, speaking of Zeppelin and the way they made records, there's Rick Beato, who is just an endless knowledge of music production theory, et cetera, et cetera. You know, he got all the bottom tracks, and like you can't quantize those drums. If you start putting that kind of music to a click, it takes the human feel out. It takes the whole vibe and journey of these songs away. And nowadays, people are making records, and you know the drums aren't done on the same day as the guitar, or you know everyone's done their own parts in a home studio somewhere else. They're not even closely.
And how are you getting into it? Like as a musician, like if you're playing by yourself, how are you getting into it? Like, yes, it's still fun to play, but there's something to be said. It's no different than if I listen to a song and they cut everything out except one instrument or just the vocals. It's not the same.
Yeah. It's definitely, we're in a time now where everybody's got home recording equipment, and even the big studios, everybody's just doing everything digital and editing it, but we're not really seeing, you know, the results that are coming out. Where's the cut through? Where is the next AC/DC? Where is the next Metallica? Where is the next Van Halen or Jimi Hendrix or you know, any of these guys? It's just, it might be an easy way to record and a budget way to make music and albums, but it's not adding to the depth of music legacy that we already have, and that's the shame.
Yeah, totally. And you know, there's something to be said about the realness and the rawness of not overproducing everything, and that mistakes happen. Like nobody's perfect. And, you know, you mentioned Van Halen. One of my favorite memories ever of like thousands and thousands of gigs I've been to in my lifetime was at the 1983 US Festival, Heavy Metal Day, which was weird because Triumph played on Heavy Metal Day. You can imagine if you had a Heavy Metal Day today and that was the band. But Van Halen was the headliner of Heavy Metal Day. And so they're starting to play Ain't Talking About Love. And Eddie is looking over at Dave because he's not singing. And then Dave, the consummate, like one of the greatest frontmen ever, in my opinion, 300,000 people, and he just says on the mic, I fucking forgot the words. And he wasn't even joking either, but the whole place roared like the best thing ever happened. It was the biggest applause of the whole day, because he forgot the words. And then it was even better, typical Diamond Dave, there was one person in the crowd that heckled him. And and he turned to that one person and he pointed at him and he goes, I'm gonna fuck your girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that's famous.
Right?
And how cool is that compared to today? Today, if a band fucks up, it's usually because the band are trying to play along to backing tracks.
Right?
They mess the arrangement up, and now the vocals are out of sync with the music. You can't just pick that up. It's kind of like, talk about a vibe killer. Like if a singer just forgets some words and you go, hey, fuck it, yeah, we're all in the moment together, 2, 3, 4, we go again. But when it's all synced, the whole show's, like backing tracks and synced lights.
Yeah. Well, like Hetfield says at live shows, he goes, come on, guys, sing it with me, talking to the audience, because sometimes I forget the words.
Yeah. And you got to give it to someone like James. Like he's playing really long shows. They're touring. The amount of dates that a band like that does.
Oh my God!
When we talk about vocalists who, maybe need backing tapes to fulfill touring commitments, there's so many shows and the voice just only lasts so long. That is a different discussion. But yeah, hat off to James for that. That would be a Herculean task.
Right. And now you take the other side of it. There's bands today that cancel shows because their laptop isn't working.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's I mean, there's some really great Instagram memes that go around of people that play with setups like that, and they've all got the in-ears. So when someone comes to see their rehearsal, you can only hear drums. There's everything else is just going through in-ears. It's like, man, you've just sucked the life out of everything here. It's yeah.
Totally.
Our motto was, especially going into this album, was everything needs to be moving air, and at the same time that the guitars, the bass, the drums, the vocals, it's all got to be pushing air, real air in the same room. Just put some microphones well placed and capture the sound of this room. That's
totally. That's the way it should be. It's like even doing stuff like this, okay? There are times that I'll tell my engineer if he's editing an interview or something, I'm like, don't take the ums out because, if it's too polished, it's not really interesting to people.
It's been doctored and it's fake, and in a world full of fake shit, we wanted to believe that sports and music was some of the last truly real anything can happen. But then business starts to get their claws into that, so maybe they want the band to do more dates than they're capable of, so they've got to use backing tracks, or for whatever reason, or just that they suck, I don't know. And games in sports are corrupted to get people to throw games. I mean, we need something real, right? We got to have something that's just human. And
here's what I love. Okay, do you know the band Bad Flower?
No, I don't.
All right, so check them out because they're really good. But they do a lot of festivals here in the U.S. And one of the festivals one time, the singer, he had laryngitis. So he still came out and performed. he plays guitar, so he was playing guitar, but he told the audience, I have laryngitis, I'm not allowed to sing, can all of you sing for me? And they did their whole set, didn't cancel anything, and I think it was one of the best gigs they ever had, because the whole place was singing every song. It was badass.
And I mean, that stuff happens, right? Like in unlike sports, where if it's a team sport, you might have an injury and you can bring in a replacement because it's part of the team. But music doesn't really have that, like
No.
It's even the theater, I guess, has understudies for maybe the main roles. But, in music, because you're paying not just to hear the performance, or as you'd see a tribute band, you're paying to see the person.
Yeah.
If you're going to see Wasp, well, it better be Blackie Lawless singing. If you're going to see Metallica, it better be James Hetfield singing. And I mean, like you said, well, if they're sick and they just fess up and say, hey, and I mean, on that point, Dean, we had that year Slayer came out with Megadeth some years ago, and Tom had some horrendous ear infection. He could hardly stand up, but he had no voice. They played. He didn't sing. Guys from the support bands jumped up and all did a song each. Some people from the audience got up and sung.
Nice.
And the band would have been like, well, we got through it. It's hardly going to be their crowning achievement, but the show goes on, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, the only bad situation would be is like, say, if Mustaine lost his voice and they put Hetfield in to sing for him. He might not be too happy about that.
Hey, that'll get plenty of coverage. That will.
Right?
He's getting enough coverage out of putting Ride the Lightning on the new album.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what that sounds like, because I mean, I was at Metallica's first show ever, so I actually met Mustaine in Metallica. And I love Mustaine, and I love Metallica too, but I love Mustaine, and like, he did partially write that song, so I'm looking forward to hearing it. Because even like, I love the Four Horsemen, but the Mechanics, like, that's the real thrash song, is the Mechanics, So
although you can't imagine James Hetfield singing those lyrics, right? The Mechanics lyrics, like. Mustaine always had that, he like loved you to death. He touched on those wake up dead, like the relationship type stuff. And Metallica in those early albums, they wouldn't touch that with a yardstick.
No,
I'm a Mustaine guy too. Dean, I used to work for Roadrunner Records in Australia, and prior to that, Sanctuary Records in the UK. So I got to work with Dave on a few albums just as a marketing guy. What a hard worker. What a person.
It's so weird, because the whole thing that if there's like a spirit or something, you get chills. I just got chills because about Michelle Kerr, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
And
obviously a US rep for
UK. She was UK, but she passed away last year. I knew her pretty well, and I got chills when you were talking about Roadrunner, because I was thinking, I thought about her. It was funny because I that's one of the festivals I do media coverage for, Bloodstock in the UK, which she was the PR person for that. And so Machine Head was playing, and he did this like whole tribute to her, like on stage at the festival. It was the most badass thing. I walked up to him like a month later at another festival in the US, and I was just like, what was it? Louder Than Life, I think. And I just walked up to him, and I was like, hey, I just wanted to say that was a pretty badass thing he did, dedicating to Michelle, and shook his hand and walked away, because it was so cool, So it's so funny. It's like Roadrunner Records is everywhere.
Yeah, like I mean, weren't they just they were really the brand for metal music, and they were maybe the bigger of the independents. If you were on Roadrunner, when they come out with Merciful Fate, Annihilator, and then that whole first wave of death metal, I think the early Obituary Records were Roadrunner, and then the whole 90s thing with Fear Factory, Machine Head, Sepultura, yada, yada, yada.
Slipknot.
Yeah, oh, well, that's another story. I only met Michelle the once when she came out for Soundwave out here in Australia, and I was still working for Roadrunner, and she was out here looking after Machine Head.
Yeah, it was funny. You'll love this. He was saying that she was this is his exact words, a badass bitch. And she could drink any guy under the table. He said there were a few times I'm like, no, Michelle, I got to tap out. I'm done. You got me.
It's a tough industry to be in, full stop, but it's a tougher industry for a woman, for sure.
And for her to make that mark on the world that she made, because there isn't anybody you can talk to in this industry that doesn't know her. It's kind of, and she was very helpful to me too. Like, I came over and I was covering Bloodstock, and I met her for the first time a few years back, and she was hooking me up with interviews with bands and stuff, like helping me out, and just amazing, and there's so many amazing people that were from Roadrunner. So it's very cool to learn that you were at Roadrunner too.
Yeah. Well, it's 6 degrees of separation, or maybe in the music industry only 1 degree.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. So yeah, you have the new album, Something Borrowed, Something New. Are we getting married? It's going to be released worldwide December 5th on Rockshots Records. Who, I gotta say, that record label, there's so many bands I interview from that record label. So who knows, maybe they're this decade's version of Roadrunner.
Roberta, who runs Rockshots, he's I think the Roadrunner business model is something he looks up to, like, from its heyday anyway. And something that Roberto always says that's very different to a lot of other labels is he's not interested in signing a band that's been around for 25 years on other labels. It's an easy sell. He wants to find new bands. So, and he's, I think his label only started maybe 8 years ago, and our new album's going to be the 236th release or something like that. I only know that because of the catalog number. CD 236. But I mean, so that's how many albums he's been putting out, and he's just passionate about the music. It's not about, oh, this band's already sold this many on this label, or this band's got 100,000 followers on their Facebook page. He's just looking for music, and that's pretty refreshing in this day and age.
Oh, I love that, because I was managing an artist a while back, and I had a connection with Sony Records, and their first question wasn't, send me the music. It was, how many Instagram followers does she have?
Yeah,
they didn't even know what she sounded like yet.
Yeah,
that's so ridiculous to me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
but I mean that is the business side over the music side, because they're just looking for an easy sell. If an artist already has cultivated 100,000 fans or 50,000 fans, whatever the case may be,
exactly,
there's an audience there for them to sell to. They don't have to go out there and market hard to win over every fan. And really, that's the art side, that's the music side of business, is that creating the art that's going to resonate with people. So, look, Rockshots have been great to us. This is album number 3.
Nice.
Something borrowed, something new. Like you said, that we thought that fitted well with its part covers, its part originals. The something borrowed.
I love it. It's such a brilliant name.
And the album cover has a small boy sitting with some big old headphones on in front of a stereo with a stack of vinyl, and that's how I grew up, where you weren't tied to a computer. You were just, in the moment, losing yourself in the music. So we tried to everything about this record, the way we recorded it, the format with the covers and the originals, the artwork, we just tried to tie the whole thing together into this very honest vision of where we're at right now.
I love it because, you know, I do see the picture of the cover, which is behind me here. And I remember, like, so I lived in LA during the 80s scene. Okay. Like, I grew up in Jersey and my dad moved me to LA in 1980. What a time to move to LA. So I was like,
Wow.
at the start of it all. Okay. And you mentioned Blackie, like, I remember so clearly going to a show on Halloween in I think it was 81 or 82, and it was Wasp, Armored Saint, and this band Headshaker, who they never survived. But like, I'm still close friends with Armored Saint to this day. I used to be good friends with Chris Holmes from Wasp, and we used to go to the mall together. And, you know, I used to go to this record store in the Valley called Oz Records. I tell this story quite often nowadays because it seems to come up, and this is appropriate with what you're saying. It's like, and I had a friend that was a record store clerk there, and me and my friends, we would go there, and he would show us these albums of bands, and that's how I discovered most of the bands. Like, he would just say, "Here, you need to listen to this." And unlike today, where you couldn't listen to it first, you had to buy it, spend your hard-earned money buying it, and you listened to it over and over again, no matter what. And I used to sit on the balcony with my headphones on, look at all the artwork, read the lyrics, all that stuff. And, you know, it makes a difference. And like that show I was talking about with Wasp, I saw a picture of them in Armored Saint in the magazine and I'm like, oh, gotta go to that show because of the way they looked, you know? Well, that record store clerk also turned out he had a record label. So a lot of the bands that he was showing us were bands he was handling. That was Brian Slagle.
Oh, Brian. Okay.
Yeah. Like several years back, I saw him at some event that we were both doing. I'm like, you know, you were actually pretty brilliant back then. What a brilliant marketing plan. And he's so humble. He's like, he goes, I was just a record store clerk, you know, and that's really what it was. It was just like the scene. I think that's what kids are missing today. Like, we were like this community, and like with the tape trading, you know?
Yeah. And I think guys like Brian and Johnny Z from Megaforce, like, they were just guys that were so passionate about music, and there weren't labels, like there weren't outlets or vehicles for that type of music to travel through, and they became those vehicles. You know, they were like, well, if I can't help this band get signed, you know, to Geffen or Polydor or whatever, even Music for Nations, well, I'll start my own boutique label and put stuff out. And, you know, yeah, God bless them. Like, it's amazing.
If it weren't for those two people you just mentioned, well, there might not be metal today, and there might not even, and there definitely wouldn't be Metallica today, because
it would definitely be a lot different. The metal landscape would be very different without guys such as those two. Yeah, for sure.
No doubt. So, and I look at Rockshots Records, that's today.
You can put Monty Connor into that list as well, because, I mean, the guy that started Roadrunner was a Dutch guy, and it was never intended to be a heavy metal label. They just hired this young guy that was running a radio show, Monty Connor, and he was getting all these demos. He signed Merciful Fate, he signed Deicide, he signed Fear Factory. You know, they're all his signings.
Wow.
I mean, you know, Roadrunner doesn't even have a metal. It's not like Metal Blade Records. Roadrunner Records could have been a dance label. Could have been anything.
Right. It could have been anything.
Monty Connor, he was the A&R guy, and he came up with that roster, and then all of a sudden, by default, he's branded it. It's like, well, this is a home of heavy metal.
Right? It's wild how it worked out. But now we that has all led to today and this new music that you have that everybody has to listen to. Because maybe if it weren't for Roadrunner, we wouldn't be talking today and you wouldn't have a new album right now.
That's
so
right.
There you go. And so tell everybody how they can reach out to you guys on socials, on the web, how they can get the new album when it drops, buy merch, all that good stuff.
You can follow us on Facebook, Greystone Canyon, on Instagram. The album's available everywhere, whether it's a streaming platform that's your preferred, or you want the physical copies. They're available on Amazon, in the States through MVD. I mean, you only have to Google Greystone Canyon and click shopping, and there'll be whatever your preferred way of purchasing is or listening. It's all out there. We have a current single, which, as you mentioned, Dean, is the cover of Thin Lizzy's Suicide. It's racked up 80,000 views in its first week.
Wow.
So please go on YouTube and check that out. We have a second single dropping this week, which is an original song called Stealing Our Freedom. And I do believe Dan will be doing a video for Immigrant Song, the Led Zeppelin.
Nice. And you know what I love too? Okay, I think this is the difference between metal from our day and metal now. If you ask Tom of Slayer who his influences were, he didn't even know what metal was till Slayer. Okay, like one of the most profound voices in metal. Like he wasn't a metalhead at all, and there's so many that were like that. And we all came from the same thing. Like, okay, we talked about Zeppelin, we talked about UFO, Thin Lizzy, but then you're also doing a cover of a Neil Young song. I mean, that's freaking amazing. Because I love Neil Young.
That was really brought about, it was really brought about by the lyrics of that song. The whole meaning of this album, like I said, the organic way that we approached it, the cover art, the combining covers with original songs to see how they sit side by side, the lyrics to Neil Young's Hey Hey My My Into the Black. So we've done an acoustic version of that. And it's darker. It's
nice,
but that was a lot of fun to do, and there is an animated video coming out for that one. So watch out for that. It is it's an interesting listen for sure, the new album. So I hope people could check it out and enjoy our reinterpretations of these covers and some new Greystone Canyon original songs.
Well, and I like the way you put it, the reinterpretation, because I think that, like, even with Metallica, there's so many covers that they do that nobody knows is a cover because they make it their own. And a lot of bands, but it's like, I always laugh because people always come to me and tell me that Nine Inch Nails covered this song by Johnny Cash called Hurt.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. But that says so much, though, because it says that, Johnny made his own interpretation to where you would think it's an original. You would think it's a Johnny Cash song. When he does it, it doesn't sound like a Nine Inch Nails song.
No, absolutely. That was such a clever move, and I think that was Rick Rubin's doing. That is a great example. And I mean, that could be said about maybe Marilyn Manson's version of Sweet Dreams. That's it. They took a pop song that was played on the radio and turned it into this really dark industrial, kind of chaotic, morbid song. I would say that covers that we have done, they've remained faithful for the most part. We didn't want to change them too much. And the Neil Young one is probably the one it's definitely the one that's the most different to the original.
Well, and like I said, you did sound, just like Phil. So, I mean, and that brought me right in, right there. Because that's the other tough thing when you're doing covers is, it's tough to try to sound like them and do it better. because they're the original, or to even do it the same. So I have mad respect for bands like yours that can take a song like that and you still have the familiarity of the song itself.
Yeah.
And the people that played it.
Thank you very much. I think most of the time with the vocal, especially when you're doing different covers, it's pointless to try and impersonate people, but you need to put yourself into it, and it needs to sit well, and it needs to sound genuine. And I think you can get those two things, like pretty much on point, the song will come across. And we keep referencing Metallica doing covers. Look at all the different bands from Nick Cave to
how about the Beatles?
Yeah. Like
the whole beginning of the Beatles was covers, pretty much.
Sure.
And people think that was their songs. There's so many Beatles songs that people think it was their song.
I mean, cover or original, the publishing matters, but I mean, to the listener, it doesn't really matter as long as it's still a good song.
Yeah.
If you take someone else's song, I'm not saying you taking it, making it better, but if a good song's a good song, and if you do it justice, it'll still be a good song.
There it is.
There's a million variables to that, but I think in a nutshell,
there it is. So I guess one of my final questions is how do you keep doing this? Like, I always wonder that with artists, like after you've been doing it for so long, like how do you keep coming up with new material and original music? It's like, I think about that and I'm just in awe of artists that can do that.
It's just total inspiration, and inspiration is all around us all the time. I guess the great thing about music now, even though we're saying, the music industry sucks, but we're not looking for the next trend now. Most of the time we're looking backwards and digging into catalogs. So you're just endlessly inspired by maybe something that's been around for 50 years, but you haven't heard it before. So it's just that endless inspiration. It's also, for me personally, a little bit about the continued musical growth. Like I had some music theory lessons a few years ago. I knew music theory, but I wanted to know more, and that creeps into your playing and your writing, and you just you just keep expanding. That's that's how it is. That's how it is for me. It doesn't mean everything you write's going to be better than the last, but it's like cooking. You might keep reinventing your dish, but your wife might say, "Hey, this is not as good as last night's dish," but it doesn't mean you don't stop trying. You just keep
right. And I think it gets harder and harder, doesn't it? Like, so I think as you get more and more into your catalog, like it has to get harder to try to outdo yourself, and not because of any other reason, but like if you got 10 albums as an example, to try to outdo all 10 of those albums opposed to trying to outdo the first album with the second one, man, it's gotta be tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends what you mean by outdo. I think when people get really caught up in the music business, outdo means outsell,
And I don't think of it that way, but yeah, I see that.
Well, that's how the labels would be looking at it. You creatively, you might feel that you've surpassed everything that you've ever done, but if it isn't embraced by critics and fans, it's deemed as, well, it's an underachiever.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when you say outdo, if outdo does mean popularity and sales, you might have to dumb something right down. So you're really not outdoing it, you're underdoing it.
And to me, the outdoing is any artist, or like what I do or anything, is like you're in competition with yourself. It has nothing to do with anything else. And because we are our own worst critics. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten off an interview and the artist was like, man, that was like the best interview I ever had. And I'm thinking in my head, really? That kind of sucked. I kind of sucked. You know?
But we're doing this out of a passion, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where you can separate yourself from that trying to outdo anything, because if you're passionate about it, the paths that you're going down chasing that passion might change, and you can't compare the two. It's just it's another interview or another song, and if we've enjoyed it, fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
good day.
No doubt. And yeah, as get more experience at the craft, get better at the craft, I think as an artist, you do go down different paths. Like, you're not going to write the same stuff you did when you were 15, because you have different experiences and outlooks and perceptions and all that.
Again, we're going back to that, maybe the industry sucks, but I keep using that as a juxtaposition for a positive, is whilst all of these little independent labels like the one I'm with are getting our music out to people, they're not controlling us.
I love it.
You can put out anything you want. That no one's saying the song's got to be 3 minutes, the song's got to be 110 BPM, the song's can't have an intro that goes longer than 50. You can do whatever. Like, so if we choose to try and write, one song that's maybe a bit instant and a bit of a toe tapper, could be an instant hit or favorite song, or you want to write a 12-minute epic or a whole album of 12-minute epics, no one's telling you can't.
I love that.
It's controlled. If someone's pouring loads of money, i.e. the label, into a producer to make this record, well, they're going to want to oversee it. That may be difficult for a creative person. I wouldn't know about that, because we're an independent band. We can just do whatever we want.
Well, I remember in the 80s on the Sunset Strip sitting backstage with some of those bands and watching the record labels telling them how their music had to be from now on, how they had to dress from now on. And I was like, this is bullshit. I actually left the whole scene because of that, because I was like, I don't want any part of this. So I love hearing about today artists like you and talking about having the freedom, because my whole viewpoint is, let the business people do their business stuff and let the artists do the creative stuff.
Absolutely. And look, I'll be honest, in our league, the stakes are fairly low. Like, I mean, if on this album we sell a few thousand copies and the videos get 500,000 views or something, that's a big win for us. But in the grand scheme of things, it's small. But it's important to us to create the best music we can, and their role in it, i.e. the labels, is to get it to as many people as they can. And if we both do our job, it's a win. We don't have to be on top of the world or on top of the mountain. We're just here doing what we love, and it's working.
That's the key right there, because at the end of the day, that is the true key to life, is just being happy and passionate about what you do. Because if you spend your whole life hating your job or what you do, what good is it? What good is the money? What good is the success?
It's a wasted life. It's, there's no read through on this thing. We're just here on the journey, and you better make every moment count. I was fortunate enough, I'll give you a little story. I was fortunate enough to play guitar on the last Paul Di'Anno tour, who, as you know, is
I'm total Team Di'Anno. Killers is one of my favorite albums ever.
So I got to do the last Australian tour with Paul Di'Anno. We're playing Killers and Iron Maiden self-titled in its entirety. Man, ever since he was out of Iron Maiden, which is like 1981, he never really made any money, but he never stopped being passionate about music. And he's passed away now, God rest his soul. But it just goes to show, even decades since he'd had the success, going out and playing club shows to people singing along to Running Free and Phantom of the Opera and Rothschild, and he had the biggest grin on his face, and he was in a wheelchair and, you know, in considerable pain most of the time, but his spirit for doing it was just it wasn't
I love it
at all.
I love it. And it's like Ozzy too. Like I knew Ozzy was going to go out after that because like I said for years when Sharon was talking about him retiring, and I'm like, if he stops performing live, he will die because he lives for that. Like he just lived for it. And all you had to do is see the look on his face at that Back to the Beginning. And he went out on his own terms for sure, because that was like probably one of the best times of his life that night.
That is so amazing it got to happen too, because I mean, imagine if that had been a couple of weeks later, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah,
I think he purposely stayed alive. He was like, screw you. I'm not going till I do this show.
I believe that too. And, you know, watching the footage of him desperately trying to get up out of that chair because
oh my God, that was getting to me right there, because I've seen Ozzy every year since 1980. I saw Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, and like I was there. There was this festival called Moonstock several years back, like right before the pandemic, where we had that total eclipse throughout the whole world. It was like one of the biggest ones, and it was at the epicenter of it. And he was performing Bark at the Moon during the solar eclipse. And I got to shoot it. Like, I'm not normally a photographer, but they gave me a photo pass, and I was standing right under him, shooting him. I have the pictures like that. They're amazing. That it looked like it was dark out when it was daytime because the solar eclipse, and just an amazing experience. And like, you think about all the things that he's done in all these years, and how amazing is it too that he got kicked out of Sabbath, thought it was the end of the world, and he ended up bigger than he ever would have been in Sabbath.
It's such a triumph on so many levels. Like Sharon and Ozzy as a team, you know, against the odds. That first lineup that he had in those first two records, like how special they were in not only for his career, but the evolution of hard rock and heavy metal and just guitar. And then that every guitarist that they managed to find was just this, like, it's like, how can you know, you think, oh, there's only one Eddie Van Halen. And, you know, of course there is only one Eddie Van Halen, but you go from Randy Rhoads to Jakey Lee to Zakk Wylde. It's like, what? Like,
well, not only that, okay, think about it. In one year, I saw Ozzy play with Randy Rhoads, and then he had for a short stint filling in Pat Travers after Randy Rhoads, and then Brad Gillis. Like how many musicians this man has collected through the years. And then this final album, all the people he was singing songs with, like Elton John, and like, just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. What a fantastic career. What a huge life. Like, that's a life well lived right there. And never to be replaced, never to be forgotten. I mean, it's fairy tale stuff, you know.
No doubt.
Huge influence and huge part of my life too. Like, amazing.
And this new album, that's fairy tale stuff too. Everybody's got to buy it. Your new album, you know, they can't borrow it either. They got to get it new.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, like, listen to it. Contact us. Let us know what you think. Share it around, and Dean, that's the best, mate. That's a nice plug there. Thank you very much.
You got it. You have any final words for our listeners?
No, really appreciate the opportunity. You're talking to me in sunny Melbourne, Australia, Greystone Canyon. We're all just about honesty and integrity, and tipping our hat to the legacy of everything that's hard rock and heavy metal, and just be safe and, keep loving life.
Love it. You guys rock. I love what I've heard off the new album. I can't wait till the rest of it comes out. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipe Man.
Hey, this is Darren Cherry from Greystone Canyon on the Adventures of the Pipe Man. Thank you very much for having me, and God bless you all.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY Radio.